Okay, as you can see on the bench, Kenmore. This is a Janome made 385 16231 301, and the end cover is not on this one correctly, but the problem that it has is this stitch selector tape is not moving with the stitch selector, so I need to pull this machine cover off and get in there to fix on that. To that end, we need to open this entire machine up, and by opening it up, you'll also know how to get in there to get it oiled and degreased or freed up if you've got one with some issues. So I'm going to start with the top panel here. There's a screw under the spool pin, and then there's a clamping screw here, and you just have to loosen this one inside the lid, and then this side lifts off, and it's got tabs across here, and then you turn it like so and pop it up off the over the bobbin winder. So if you're just cleaning and oiling this machine, popping the lid off means you've got full access to the top here to clean and oil and lube it. But we need to get further in, so we'll take the selector dial off, and then this end panel has a screw that holds it on here. And, right, without that top cover on, the handle just pops off the pins. And there is a center screw here that clamps this end panel on. And with those two screws removed, it pops off. There's a hook on top here that hooks on the tab here. And now this machine, you can either pop the backside off with a couple screws to have access to the backside, or you can pop the front off. Either way, the bottom panel needs to come off because the screws on the bottom panel clamp some of the front and back covers in place. So this machine is electronically controlled. It's got a full mechanical cam stack in it, but it also has electronic start-stop and a needle up-down function that's electronic. So right now, this panel is a bit tricky to get off because it needs to go kind of to the side and then rotate and pop over these feet. Once you rotate it a little bit, there we go, pops over the feet. And now we have access to the underside here. There's one more screw that clamps the panel on from below here. That screw was in the bottom cover. And we've got, let's see now, this screw next to the bobbin winder that clamps the front cover on, and inside, take our light bulb out. This screw here is down behind the light bulb and has a thread guide with it. That screw holds this part of the panel on. And now, oh, that's the one I'm forgetting. Buried in the machine, barely visible, straight inside there is a single screw clamping right about here, holding this panel on. So I need to get my very long Phillips screwdriver bit and reach in there and loosen that screw. A very long screwdriver bit. Alright, and I'm in the screw, so we can loosen that. And with that screw loose, this panel is snapped together. And I think, yeah, I don't have to take these panels off. It just snaps together. I just have to very carefully work it apart now. There it goes. Okay. Oh, right. And then it just has to twist to get under this number 2 mark. So that's that panel off, and you can see these sliders interact with these 2 levers, and then the stitch selector. Oh, and of course, as soon as I get this open, this panel starts moving. So the question is, since that started moving when I took the cover off, let's set the cover in place and see what shows. Alright, I think it's... yeah, alright. It's not showing the proper thing. It's off by a spot, one spot. There's no reference on this darn piece. Alright, well, since this is open, this machine has the horizontal cam stack, and then this slider is all the followers for it. So if you have a machine that's not changing stitches when you turn the dial, then you need to get in from the side here and wiggle the follower slide that I've got my finger on to get that to move up and down the cam stack. But like I said, that's working. I just have to get this dial selector to show the right thing. So in order to facilitate that, I'm gonna just fiddle with this because I think trying to get that center tab on this to line up is the challenge here. All right. Okay. There. Settled in. See, we look through the window and it's moving, but it's not lining up with the right spot, so I need to adjust this. And having opened it up, it started moving, but I don't know how reliable that is, so I'm gonna take this bracket off that holds our track. And see what happens. That. Okay, what is that? Oh. Those two screws did not hold the whole bracket off, they just held a part of it. Okay, let me put these screws back and try there we go. These screws look like they might be the bracket, so let's try them. There. Okay. There. Alright, so here's the bracket that does that changing of the thing. It's got a film style set of keys on there, and apparently it's got what, 1, 2, 3 indicators on it that are supposed to match up with the stitches. So since we popped that off, what we can do is just rotate it until we think it's adjusted right, and then put that back on. So I'm going to Yeah, I'm gonna fiddle with this a bit, but it's really just a matter of turning this indicator until we think it's in the right spot for the markers to show, and then putting it back in place. Okay, I got this in the right spot. The blue dial is for the buttonhole selection, and it shows through on the buttonhole. And I just moved it back and forth and guessed, and just kept putting it back in place and checking it to see if it was in the right spot. So with that in place, it is not moving quite far enough every spot though. Alright, I'm going to move that along one tooth forward on that gear. There we go. One tooth forward on the gear. Now, we'll put that cover back in. There. Now it's showing much better in its spot. Cool. So, push the cover back on. Reassembly is the same. I'm gonna check that it's snapped together in the center here. And make sure that these have locked onto the pegs and feel like they're moving, which they do. So I can tighten this clamp and then tighten that clamp and then reach in the end here and tighten that one clamping. Screw in there, if I can get my long screwdriver in there, yep. And the reason to make sure that you've got the case snapped together is that clamp holds the snapped together case in place. And like I said, when you're working on this again, we've got our slide for the various stitches. So, these are overall real nice machines, Janome made. Like I said, semi-electronic, so it's got the speed control, start, stop, up, down. They're all electronically controlled. This screw goes in, and then you have to hold this thread guide rest up. It's just the thread rubs across it to keep it from catching on the plastic, but you need to hold it up because it does lock in the end inside the case there when it's tightened up. And the bottom here, we have to finagle the one corner on the foot here, and then pull it over, and then once it's in place, all the screws clamp. And then if you need to clean underneath the bobbin area, these two screws pop out and this cover comes off to clean below there. Let's see now. Yes, that screw. Right. Now, this end cover. And the finagle for this is that there's this spot that hooks on the top edge here that kind of needs to be up when it goes on, and then work your way along like so, and then the bottom tab has to push in like so. This is snapped in place, so we can tighten that and put our big long screw in there. This knob doesn't have any marks on it, but it does have ridges, so you just have to rotate it until it starts to slide on, and then you can push it in place. The button clutch on this is a pop-out with the two screws, like a lot of the Kenmore made by Janome. So that's in some of the other 385 videos that I've had to repair those clutches. To put the top cover back on, we need to get our no, I had that the right way around. It's got this tab end, and the tab goes and that's the part that locks it upright. And we set this in place over the bobbin winder, and then it slides, snaps down and in place across here, there, and then onto that clamping tab, and that is. And the last screw goes on behind the spool pin.